Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash
And Becky.
Not the guest edition.
Just us today.
It's just us. So if you could have seen us behind the scenes just a second ago, it's been a bit crazy. We've got a whole new setup in our podcast. So for those of you who watch it, you'll notice that we now have another camera angle. Hi. Bex, put your head in. We're getting professional up in here. So anyway, that's been a whole thing, hasn't it? And then we had an idea for what we were going to talk about on the podcast and we scrapped it.
Yeah, last minute. It didn't feel right, did it?
And this is what we do. We're very much like, we've said this before, we go with where the energy is, where we're feeling guided to talk about, because our intention for the podcast is always that we are putting out what people need to hear and they will hear it in the right time.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is that, and I know there's going to be so many of you listening now that are going, yes, we know, because we always hear your podcast episodes just when we need to. We get so much feedback from people saying that it was just what we needed
at the right time, wasn't it? And that's always our intention, isn't it? We put a lot of our energy into trying to come up with what we think is needed at that time.
So that's this one, which obviously you can tell from the title. It's about grief, specifically through the lens of my story.
Yeah.
Well, I say my story, but it's actually our story.
Yeah.
Because you were right there with me.
I was there too. Don't stop it.
First of all, we will warn you, there's going to be crying. I'm an ugly crier. But it might be beautiful soft
I was
tears.
going to say, I do not believe that you're an ugly crier, Tash.
You've seen
crystals.
Me. Yeah, you've seen me actually cry, Bex. Anyway, yes, I suppose we should say trigger warning in terms of we are talking about grief. We're talking about death. We've spoken about this just before we've hit record here. And I feel that it's really, really important that we be raw, we be real, and we give the details. I share the details. There's some things around the loss of my mum that weren't particularly nice. And yes, if you're not in the space to hear about death, loss, grief, and some of the things that come with that, then this might not be for you right now, and that's totally fine. But for those of you who, are going through grief, have been through grief, but also we were saying, weren't we, for those of you who haven't been through a huge loss yet, this could be really healing, even though it may not seem relevant to you right now. It could be really healing.
It's preparation, isn't it, for some people as well, I think.
Yeah.
So
there you go. That's the trigger warning. From here, we're going to be raw. We're going to be real. There's going to be details. And like we said, I feel like it would be wrong to not share them because they all formed part of the journey. And another reason, aside from the fact that we wanted to talk about grief, to help those who may be going through it or have gone through it, is that we wanted to share this because this is a huge part of our journey together. Yeah. It's also a huge part of where I am in life now. And if it hadn't been for this experience and the way it happened and the things that happened that we're going to share with you, we would not be sat here today doing this podcast. I would not be working as a hypnotherapist, helping so many wonderful, amazing people, and their lives wouldn't have been changed through that. So this whole experience, and everywhere that I am now, that we are now, and that actually are people around us, our family, has all come from the loss of my mum.
Because I certainly wouldn't be here. I mean, goodness knows where I would be. It's all down to that, isn't it? And we've gone on it together. Oh, lovely Liz.
She's here.
I know. I know.
Okay, right.
Okay. Yeah.
No editing either.
No.
So, sorry.
Where do we begin? You know, it's COVID, isn't it?
Mm.
So this is when the news came.
Yeah.
I can remember it so clearly. Like in the midst of all this, you know, panic and upset that and worry that we were all going through with, you know, COVID, and being told, you know, we're going to kill our parents and our grandparents and all of that. We get this awful news, don't we? Don't stop it.
I pulled it together now. I can get it. I'll take it over. So actually, it's like, it's important to say, and we're not going to talk about this now, it's not something we're talking about, but before COVID, there was a whole load of stuff that happened in my life that kicked this off first. So it was already a difficult time in my life. Then we had COVID. And then in the middle of COVID, it was July. My mum hadn't been well anyway. But then, she got the diagnosis of lung cancer. And at the time it was like we were told it was stage 3. So not ideal. But it was a huge, like, to say that honestly, my mum getting cancer was something that I feared my whole life. I think a lot of us do, don't we?
We had conversations about our mums dying. And how it would just be the worst thing to happen to us ever. Of course, not imagining that it would be so soon for one of us.
I didn't think. However, interesting to say, we're going to be jumping around all over here, but it's all part of the journey. And like you were saying, you can put it all together afterwards. And it was a whole process. And I do think it was all planned. I think it was all part of the plan. We talk about this all the time. And again, this is what I really want to stress. So much of what we talk about on the podcast, this whole victim mentality, seeing the world in a different way, understanding or accepting or believing, whatever you want to say, that we choose our hardships, that we choose tough things to happen to us because we want to learn and grow. All of that we talk about, the victim mentality stuff, the stuff that could potentially trigger people and people could think, oh no, I don't see the world that way. It's all come from this experience. That was when my mindset started changing, and I didn't know about any of this. I wasn't spiritual, I was an atheist, you know. I didn't have any of that kind of belief, although I did in the background. We spoke about this, but you know, and so this is what I really want to stress as well. When we talk about this stuff, it's because it's been lived by us. It changed me as a human, as a person. It changed my whole identity. And it was this experience with my mum that switched my mindset to that one of, well, we have more control. There's more things that are going on. We choose these things. Everything happens for a reason. And actually, great things can come from tragic, awful, difficult life experiences. So we're not just spouting stuff that we've heard or stuff that everyone else is saying. We're saying it. Everything we talk about, it's because we've experienced it for ourselves and we've proven it to be true for ourselves. I think that's really important.
Definitely.
So anyway, I had about 5 years before my mum got sick, I had a real feeling, and it was very calm. When we talk about listening to intuition, it was just a very calm knowing that I wasn't going to have my mum for very long. And it scared me, but it wasn't that, like, you know, when you panic about losing people or you panic you're going to get sick or health anxiety, it wasn't that. It was a very calm knowing that was almost like underlying under the surface, but I still knew it was there. And I think that's what scared me, because I believed that. So yes, so there was a part of me that was completely in shock when we found out. because my mum's always been my mum was a young 62-year-old in a lot of ways. She was always the one, I mean, mum was the one in our wheels that we said she'll look after the kids should anything happen to me and Chris. Because we were like, she's going to be the last one standing. That's what everyone thought about my mum. She was tough. So it was a shock for a lot of people because we were never expecting it to happen. However, in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I knew this was coming. And I truly think that my mum knew as well.
Right.
Because my mum's very intuitive and I think she did know, and I think she was scared to go to the doctors. Because she knew. And again, I would say that's a message for a lot of people. Something I definitely took. If you really truly feel like there's something wrong, please go to the doctors because you trust your intuition. Because if she had gone when she knew, we could have we could have potentially done something. However, there is not one part of me that goes, oh, she should have gone to the doctors. I wish she should have gone to the doctors. If only she'd gone to the doctors. I'm like, everything was exactly as it was meant to be. Because again, I am the person I am now because this happened. Anyway, I'm not going to go through obviously everything that happened, but I mean, to put it into context, mum was diagnosed in July and she was dead by the November. So it was really, really quick.
And that's where the shock was, wasn't it? It was just that it was so quick.
Yeah. Because it didn't give us a long time, kind of just as we were getting our heads around the fact that she had cancer and she was poorly and she went into treatment, then she was gone. So what I wanted the first thing I wanted to talk about with the whole grief thing, and in the view again of trying to help people, if you're going through it, or if you have, I suppose, if you're going through it actually, or if you're going to, is that we all assume that grief starts after someone dies, but actually it doesn't. It starts depending on the circumstances. Obviously, if somebody dies in a car accident, no. But if someone's got an illness, grief definitely starts from that point. Because I felt like I did half of my grieving before mum even died. Because when I found out that she had cancer, obviously, of course, as a human, what do? You project into the future. Is she going to be cured from this? Because I should say, we were told at the time that she was going to go into this very, very aggressive treatment of chemo and radiotherapy with a view to a cure. Because that's what they had picked up, that she had stage 3, so it hadn't metastasized to secondary cancer. So we were like all on it. Like, this is a cure. My mum was so tough. They were like, this is going to be horrific for you. Horrific. The treatment, we will warn you, most people don't get through it. It was the worst pep talk. I went in because I was in with her. I went to all my mum's appointments. I was her next of kin, which we'll hear more about that later. But I was there throughout all of it. And it was like the worst pep talk ever. But I obviously understand why. And my mum was like, yep, it's fine. I'm going to beat this. I just, rah, rah. Okay. But as the cancer went on, it was almost like when she got her diagnosis, she really went down. And I think it was a bit psychological, but also I think she had got to a point where she was really poorly by that time. So she had a tumor around her bronchus, so one of the big tubes into her lungs, and it was wrapped right around it. So obviously, as it was getting bigger, it was constricting, so it was stopping her from breathing. She sounded so raspy all the time. She was short of breath. She couldn't really walk very far. And she started declining from there, and that's when my grief started, I think. Obviously, because I was worried, how long have we got with her? Is she going to get over this? Is it going to come back? All these questions. But bearing in mind, I always did think it was going to be much further in the future. But then you start grieving for the person that they were. Because my mum stopped being my mum. Particularly with the treatment that she had. It knocked her for 6, and she was so bloody tough. And she got through it, by the way. She did the whole treatment. They couldn't believe it. But she was not the same person. She was like, obviously, like, she was angry, like she didn't have much patience. She didn't want to talk. And it was COVID, so we couldn't go and see her because we were worried if we see her we could kill her. but at the same time it was starting to relax a little bit. We could have, but then you're like, well, do I? Because so then we were late, so we were, you know, it was just a phone, we were just able, but she didn't want to speak on the phone, and it's like heartbreaking for us and the kids, because she wasn't our mum anymore. Our mum was always phoning us, and we'd always talk to her, and she just, I remember one time it was Charlie's birthday, and she didn't even really want to say happy birthday to him. It was kind of a bit forced, and it was as soon as she said happy birthday, she was gone again, and I was like, that is not my mum. The grandkids were her world.
I know.
That was hard. Like, those kind of things were hard. My mum was always really tough and strong, but she became really negative. And I always, and it's funny with the expectations you put on people, and we never know how we're going to react when we get a diagnosis, do we? But I always thought that my mum would just be like, you know, no, positive, la la la. Which she was, in terms of, I'm gonna beat this. But as time went on, she was just really negative, and that was difficult.
Yeah, because that's not how you were expecting it to play out.
Yeah. So yes. So I mean, all that to say, I think it's really important to acknowledge that grief happens before someone dies.
Yeah.
And that's hard because they're still there.
Yeah.
So you're like fighting with yourself because you're like, why am I grieving you? Come on, she's not dead.
That's right. And you think, oh, am I giving up by doing that?
Yes.
And there's no easy way. There's no easy way to grieve, is there? I mean, you know, you might say, you know, could that have been easier? The fact that, you know, that's not your mum before she's gone, rather than she's there 1 minute and gone the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's no way around it, is there?
No.
You know?
No.
There's no easy way to go through something like that.
No.
Because that's really traumatic, actually, having to grieve somebody whilst they're already there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard.
Because you're like, is this me giving up hope? You know, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know?
And not to mention all the amounts of time that, you know, I was Googling.
Yeah, I know.
Statistics, outcomes, and it wasn't good for mum, to be honest with you.
Trying to stay
positive. I was really trying to stay positive, and I was trying to hold out, you know, that hope, keep the vision.
Yeah.
And yet still, again, that quiet voice that told me 5 years ago that she wasn't going to be with us and there was no reason for me to think that, by the way. Mum was like totally fine. That quiet voice came in again and said, just get ready. Get ready. It's going to be sooner than you think. And again, no reason for us to necessarily think that. And I knew that voice. I recognized it from before, and I was like, oh, but I was fighting everything.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like I said, it kind of takes over your life, because every waking thought is about that. I felt like I wanted to spend as much time with her as possible, and couldn't because of COVID. Unfortunate circumstances as well. She didn't get to see her grandchildren from really when she got diagnosed in the July. She didn't see her direct grandkids. They didn't see her, and they were so close. And that's just a real shame as well. And again, something that I could feel angry about. Yeah. But I choose not to, and I chose not to then as well, because it was at that point where I realized, well, you can't change it. Nothing can be done about that, and nothing good comes from holding on to anger. It's just what happened. It was just the world, and it was sad for all of us, but we could only do the best with what we had at the time. And I think that's a lesson that's really kind of gone with me all the way through, which is a great lesson to have in the back, and a great belief to have in the back of your mind when you're trying to build up self-love. Because if you're always saying to yourself, you know, I'm doing the best I can with what I have at the moment, that's such kindness to yourself. And that really helps. That really, really does help. Anyway, so yeah, you know, then gosh, all the walks that we had in the wood every day, we walked in the woods and we would talk about it, and it would just be dominated by Mum, wasn't it?
Yeah, like every morning I'd be waiting to see how she got, you know, how whatever treatment she was having when, and then like you say, we walked every day, so we were going through it, all the emotions, weren't we?
And we didn't know what was happening, and you know, like I've always said to you, haven't I wouldn't have been able to get through that, the loss of my mum, but also the before part, you know, when my mum was sick, I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. You had like a huge part to play in just, I don't know, keeping me sane, the comfort. And I'm so lucky that I had you. And, you know, I think about, God, how you would have had to have just listened to me for all those months going on. And it's like, you know, you can't help it. It's not negative. I was never negative, was I? But it's like heavy stuff, isn't it?
You were so
it's
strong.
Heavy.
Yeah, and I just was like, you were inspiring me, like, you know, just how you were handling it all. And you were so strong. And, you know, not everybody can do that.
I think you surprise yourself, though, don't you, with what, you know, you don't think you can until you're in that situation. And I remember, like you said, you know, it was the worst thing I could ever think of happening. But then when it actually happens to you, you're like, well, I haven't got a choice.
True.
I have to do this now. But again, is that a mindset thing? I think that's lucky, because I was born with that kind of mindset, as were you. It's like, no, we crack on. We have to find a way to survive. We will survive. We're going to find the best way to do that. And I feel fortunate that is
how you're designed.
How I am designed. It helps. But I would also say to people, you know, you'd be surprised at the strength you have and what you can do. And I also think that when you have the knowledge and awareness of what we now talk about on the podcast, it gives you even more strength.
Oh my goodness.
Because bear in mind, back here, Becky and I didn't have any of this knowledge. Nothing. In fact, you know, like I said, I was an atheist. I just thought that you die and that's it. You just cease to exist. And that was what I was dealing with. But anyway, I'm trying to like keep it, because we could just rabbit on for ages. But I suppose what's really relevant is skipping to the part where Mum actually died. Because that's where my life changed. That's when my mind was rewired.
In an instant.
In an instant. So interestingly, the week before my mum died, she went back to her old self. It was so strange. And I think I've heard this before in settings where people talk about, I don't know, in like hospices. Anything like that.
Like Alzheimer's and things. They say they came back.
They have a moment of lucidity, don't they? So it was like that, but it was a week for Mum. And she was so not my mum, because like I said, we just grieved for her. And all of a sudden, she was back. It was really strange. And she was bright and she was making phone calls. It was lovely. And she felt really positive. She had so much hope. And like I said, and this is relevant, we were going for a cure with Mum. She had been diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, so therefore it was a cure. It wasn't stage 4 and secondary. So we thought. A series of events happened, and again, this is where you just look back now and you're like, this was all meant to be. You know, she couldn't have an MRI scan on her liver because she had had a stent put into her lung to open up her tubes, because at one point her lung had collapsed and she had to be rushed in. That gave her post-traumatic stress afterwards. She was never the same after that, because she always felt like she couldn't breathe then when she was actually okay, but she constantly thought she couldn't breathe. So that was horrible. That was a real struggle to see her like that. Not to mention that I can deal with anything. Your head could fall off and I'd be fine, but start not breathing in front of me and start choking in front of me, and I lose it. I just lose it. So it was like the worst way Mum could have died as well for me. Be selfish.
If when you came in, your soul knew that this is what you were going to have to deal with, because I remember that being a thing for you. And, you know, you were training to be a doctor. This is why, you know, it was like quite funny, really, that you had this condition that would make you panic. Like you say, you were fine with everything else. So why that? It's like you came in just knowing something to do with this was going to cause you such trauma.
And maybe again, because like I said, there's lessons in everything. Having to look after Mum and see Mum gasping for breath a lot of the time, or panicking because she couldn't catch her breath. You know, she used to say to me, Tasha, don't look at me because you're just going to make me worse. I'm like, I'm okay, Mum. Like, I'm here, what can I do? I'm all right. And I had to really get used to calming myself down for her. Like, I had to do it for her because I didn't want to make her worse. Obviously, I didn't want to make her panic. I'm not as bad with breathing stuff now because of that. Anyway, so I was saying about she couldn't have the MRI, right? So she never got to have the MRI on her liver. Just before she died, the time had passed, so she could have the MRI. So they did the MRI. So we were always leading up to this date, to the 20th of November. That was the date we were leading up to, because that was the date that we had booked in with Mum's consultant to find out the results of this aggressive treatment that she had gone through to see if it worked. Now, in the meantime, while she was having it done, they were obviously doing scans, and they could see that they were saying the tumour shrinking. But where the tumour was shrinking, it was leaving gaps in her lungs when she kept getting infections. But because we were getting this, like, you know, we'd go in and they'd say, oh, it's good news, it's shrunk. You know, we're like, oh, wow. Mum was convinced that this treatment was going to work, you know, and we were really trying to hope for that as well. And that she was going to go in on the 20th of November to be told by this consultant that she's been cured, or at least was on the way to being cured. She'd bought a pair of shoes, little pair of pumps. We still got them in her wardrobe, and she was like, those are the shoes I'm going to wear on the day that I go in and get told that I'm cured. So it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing, and the lead up to that. So the day that she died, I've still got the voice note. Sorry. Pumps. The little pumps got me. Oh, sorry. She had tiny feet like you as well, size 4, so tiny. She bought them with her best friend, and they went out together and they got them. They were like little leopard print pumps. Oh, gorgeous. Like, that's what I'm good with there. So, and the reason I say that is because for her, that was her hope. That was her driver. She went through this horrific treatment, and she was just like, I'm doing this for my grandkids, I'm doing this for me. Christmas, I'm going to spend. She went out and she had bought before, like, we'd gone out and bought a brand new dining table, a huge one, that she'd always wanted for the family to be all around there. Like, it was a whole thing. That was her aim. So I've got the voicemail on my phone still from the day that she died. She called me and she was like, hi Tash, and she sounded so much better. Like, I've got an infection again, going into the hospital. Probably have to stay there a few nights, you know, like, because what she would do, she'd keep getting infections, and she had to go on IV antibiotics, and then we'd wait for it to clear up, we'd wait for her numbers to come back, you know, and then she could come back out again, and we knew it would kind of happen again. But you know, she didn't much like being in hospital, but she had been going in and out so many times, she kind of made herself at home. You know, my mum was someone who was just friends with everyone. She'd like brighten up everybody, you know, wherever she was very loud, you know, she wasn't afraid to, like, you know, like, make herself known. And so they all loved her as well. So she was like, well, I'm going back to the ward again, I'll call you when I get there. Auntie Jane's taking me. I said, okay, fine. I think I was with you when I received, actually, I've just been taken back there. I was with you when we'd just done our walk, and I listened to it. I was like, Mum's gone into hospital again. So the day went. And then I remember she called me at about 7:30 in the evening. And she was happy. She was like, back on the ward, I'm settled now. They've done everything. They've got me in. They've admitted me. Such and such is here, the nurse. Oh, I like him. I've just had some pasta, and I've eaten some pasta because she couldn't eat because of what it did to her throat. But she was like so proud of herself because she'd eaten this pasta. She was quite nice, actually, you know, did it. And it was just like music to my ears because that hadn't been my mum. And she was just so happy, and she was so calm, and she was just like her normal self, and it was just lovely. She said, so, you know, I'm going to do a bit of my crossword, get myself settled, and then try and get some sleep. But you know what it's like here, you can't sleep in the hospital. So she said, I'll speak to you tomorrow. So I was like, right, Mum. And then I went to bed. I mean, I remember, you don't forget these times, do you? But I went to bed, and I was, like I said earlier, I was Mum's next of kin. So I got woken up my phone. I had my phone on silent. I got woken up. It was 10 to 3 in the morning, and I heard my phone vibrate. And you just, don't you? When your phone is ringing at that time in the morning, it's not good.
Yeah.
And I looked at the number, and it was obviously a number that I didn't know. So I just, when you just know, I knew.
Yeah.
I knew, and yet I was still like,
no, surely not. Yeah.
So I picked it up, hello, and it's this like young doctor on the phone, and he was asking me like loads of questions. Is this Tasha? Is this your mum?
Yeah.
It felt like he was just asking me loads of questions and just saying stuff, and I remember, like, all I could feel, like, in my mind, I could just hear my voice going, just tell me, just stop talking and hurry up and tell me, say the words, I need you to say the words. And then he said, and I'm really sorry to say, unfortunately, your mum's passed away. And I was just like, no, she can't have, because I just spoke to her a couple of hours ago. She was fine. She was good. Like, what could have possibly happened? How could she be dead? Because everything was good. And he wasn't really telling me.
No.
I was like, I need to know what happened to her. Can you please tell me what's happened?
Yeah.
I need to know. And honestly, I can't really remember his words now. It was a little bit, I know he said, like, we tried to resuscitate her, but unfortunately we couldn't bring her back. It was all a bit bitty. I didn't really understand, to be honest with you. I didn't understand what had happened to her. He didn't explain it very well, because I later realised why, because it was horrific. It was traumatic for people that experienced it, for that poor boy who was obviously trying to resuscitate her and who was a junior, and for everyone else who was on the ward that saw it happen. I found out that later. Yeah, so obviously by that time Chris was up, and he was just like, what? And I was just like, Mum's dead. And then I started crying, because then it kind of hit me. And I just thought, I've got to tell my dad. I need to tell my dad. My dad doesn't know. That was really hard to call my dad. I just went into, again, it's like crisis mode, isn't it? You don't know how you're going to act. You can't imagine, but I didn't stop. I just thought, like, what do I have to do? I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. So I called my dad. And I think I called my Auntie Jane as well. Yeah, I did. I called my dad, and bless, my dad was like, what's happened? Obviously, like, what happened? Why didn't they call me? I need to see her. I said, well, Dad, you're going to have to phone them. I don't know, like, you phone them. So he actually did end up going down there. Then I told my Auntie Jane, who's my mum's sister, who I was really, really close to. She was like my second mum. And she was looking after my mum at the time. She was living with them, wasn't she? So I told Auntie Jane, and at least I knew that Auntie Jane was with my dad. So I was like, okay, they're fine. I've told them. And then what I did next, like, I still can't believe it, but I went back to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, that I would never have thought.
No.
I think my body just went into shutdown. I came back because I'd gone downstairs to make the phone calls, and it was obviously, it was early in the morning, but by the time all of it had finished, and I think it probably was close to 5 o'clock in the morning. And I went back upstairs, and I just got back into bed with Chris, and I just went to sleep.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I going back to sleep right now?
Yeah.
But I guess my body obviously needed to do it. But again, like, obviously, because I'm telling this story, not just to share my story, but to share what I learned along the way. That phone call, I had such PTSD from that phone call. And afterwards, every quiet second I got, especially when I was in my bed, because obviously it's, the scene.
Yeah.
I would play it over in my head. It would come into my head, and the feelings would rush. It hit me, and it was horrible. It was so horrible. And you know, I can talk about this. At the time, it was horrific. But I look at and I think back at that and I smile, because that was my introduction to the work that I do now. And I was doing it intuitively. I had no idea. But what I did was when I kept thinking about, when I kept having that memory flash in and all the horror, like, I can't tell you. Well, I think we can all imagine when you get a phone call that someone you love has just died out of the blue, especially when you've just woken up at 3:00 in the morning, and it's a complete shock. I'm sure you can all imagine what that would feel like in your body, like how it would feel. And I would have that so strong, as if it was happening again.
Yeah.
And there's this intuitive part of me just said, you cannot push this away. If you continue to have this memory come up and then just think, no, I don't want to feel it, and push it away, it's going to haunt you for the rest of your life.
Wow.
So Tasha, you need to let it come. When it comes, lay there, take it, feel it, work it through. And I didn't have any idea why. And I was like, this is masochistic. Like, is that the right word? Masochistic? Yeah. Like, why? But I did it.
Wow.
And I would lay in bed and it would hit me and I would cry silently most of the time. I mean, the amount of times I laid in that bed after Mum died in silent tears, like Chris didn't even know, like, you know, it was ridiculous. But I would just cry and I'd be like writhing in pain. But every time I did it, I got more desensitized to it. So, and I saw it working and I was like, wow, this works. Like, this is powerful.
Yeah.
Now I do that in my work, in my everyday. I do that with traumatic memories. And okay, so they're not, sometimes, most of the time, thankfully, they're not as traumatic as that. But that was the basis of how I created my programs that I do when I work with them. I knew intuitively that that's what I needed to do. And now I brought that into my program. So it's how I build what everything I do with my clients has come from what I've learned from my life experiences. It means something to me. And that is why I do what I do with the clients now. And the people that are listening to this who've worked with me, they'll know exactly what part I'm talking about. Like, when I get them, well, you know, you've done it. When I get you to feel that feeling and, you know, breathe it through, like, that's why I'm doing it. And it worked. And so now, and this is the same with any memories that you guys have that you're haunted by, or those memories that come back up that you're just like, oh, that feels horrible, push that away. The power of doing that is that now I can sit here and I can talk about it quite, you know, look, I'm fine. I'm not, there's no emotion that comes up. I can see it. So right now I can see it so clearly in my mind, but it's a bit more neutral. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it will come in and I'll be like, oof. But it's just so diluted. You know, it's so diluted and it's fine. And it certainly doesn't haunt me. It's very rare that I will think of it. And if I do think of it, I'll be like, right, well, my subconscious is bringing this up for a reason. Let's live it again. If this is what you've got to do, live it again. It's another step of letting it go. And I think that's an important lesson. And actually I took it on, as I'll talk about now, probably, because this is important. But the grief of my mum after she died, it was, well, I suppose before I go on to that, I should just say, and I've spoken about this on the podcast before, and you're going to know what I'm going to say, but obviously I was an atheist. That was my belief. There was nothing. And the night of the day after Mum died, I was sat in my kitchen looking out of those patio windows, and I just remember thinking, I cannot go on living my life. I cannot take another breath if I believe that my mum's just disappeared into nothingness. I can't do it. I just can't do it. And in that moment, I felt my mind rewire. I think that's the only time, well, especially that powerfully, that viscerally, I could almost feel my neurons changing and rewiring because everything shifted. And I know that was because that was a protective mechanism for my subconscious and for me, like, because I knew I couldn't go on. I just couldn't.
No.
But also thinking about, we have these tragic, difficult experiences for a reason. I look back now and I look at that time and I think that had to happen.
Yeah.
The only thing that could have made me flip my view from where I was to this, like, shut off to the unseen world, shut off to there being, you know, afterlife and all this stuff around that, was mum dying. Okay, I don't even want to talk about my children because that's a different thing. But, you know, we know, hopefully your parents are going to die before your kid, you know? So that would have been the only thing that could have possibly made me see so quickly in a different way. And it did. And that was the moment that everything sparked off.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, and again, I understand this now from a subconscious perspective, but also a spiritual perspective, it was like, that was a key moment. I think we spoke about in our soul contracts episode, when you're planning your life and you plan the certain big things that are going to happen, the key things that are going to happen that are going to put you on your path or keep you on your path, get you back to your path. You know, there's certain things that are going to happen and that they'll switch something. And I think that was a moment.
Yeah.
We're going to have, this is going to happen.
You knew
You're
it.
going to sat there, and I knew it.
Yeah.
Yes. Even though I didn't know I knew it, I knew it. In my soul, I knew it. And I think that's what it was spiritually.
Yeah.
And then subconsciously, because I like to keep it back down into the science, which I now understand, is that in that moment when I said, I need to find evidence that my mum is still alive, I programmed my subconscious, my reticular activating system, which we've spoken about before, which is like this filter in the back of your brain that filters out information, because we're bombarded with so much information. So basically, whatever your reticular activating system holds as important to you is what it will filter through. So in that moment, my RAS was like, right, we now need to filter through every single bit of evidence that suggests that life continues, that your mum is still here. And that's what it did.
Yeah.
And from then on, it was ridiculous. I mean, my mum was a very busy spirit.
Oh my goodness.
Wasn't she?
Oh my goodness. She was everywhere, wasn't she? I haven't, you know, and this was like so healing for me. Like you said earlier, you know, some people, you know, are lucky enough to not to have gone through all of this that you have. But obviously we all know it's going to happen at some point. And without this and me seeing this evidence from your mum, I mean, she is the one that made me understand for sure you don't die. She was everywhere, wasn't she? Let's just think about some of the things she did.
Yes.
I mean, she was flickering lights, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was turning on lights,
Blowing lights.
Oh, she threw something off your shelf.
Yep,
Your
my heart.
Your love heart. Where the heart.
Home is where
the heart is.
Yep.
I mean, of all the things.
Chucked it off.
Box of tissues went flying in front of Chris.
Yeah.
Didn't it?
No, blowing like that.
Blowing.
With no, just like.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I felt her.
You did a lot, didn't you?
A lot. I felt that she came up my stairs. Now I understand, because I didn't know. I just thought it was just this bizarre thought that I had. Now I know, with what this stuff that we've been learning, that actually she probably did come up my stairs and come towards me. Yeah. And I said to her, didn't I? I said, I'll look after her. Yes, I'll look after her. But that's what it was in my mind's eye, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm sure she was there now, looking back, for sure. And she comes through me sometimes, doesn't she?
So Becky, sometimes I'm like, oh, you've just done it again. Her face morphs into my mum's face.
So funny, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not all the time, which makes it special.
Yeah, certain expressions that I do at certain times. It's only happened like,
3.
Yeah.
And one of them was really early on when I needed, it was early in my grief.
Yeah.
And your face was just my mum's face. It was
my goodness.
So, it made me cry, didn't it? It like brought me to tears.
Yeah. And I kept seeing people that looked like her.
That's right, yes.
That's another little message, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, what else, Tash? Oh, the thing with the candle.
Yes, at her funeral. So my mum's best friend gave me a candle that lights up when you light it, when you actually light the candle. And they gave it to me, and as I took it, it just lit up.
How
all
amazing.
the LEDs around the candle lit up, and everyone saw it. It was there for everyone.
You couldn't
and
deny
you
it.
couldn't deny it. And it was just, everyone was just gobsmacked, because there was no way that candle should have lit up.
And there was so much more. There were things with TVs, and it goes on and on, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. The TV story was a cool one, because I was laying in bed.
Yes.
And I remember, like, in my early stages of grief, obviously I would talk to her, because that was the whole part of me getting, to grips with, no, she's still here. So so I would talk to her, and there would be some days where I was just like, Mum, I really need you. Like, some days I can cope. There were moments where I was like, I can't, I'm really struggling. Please, can you, like, make me aware of you? Please, can you do something? And this one particular night, I said, I know it's asking a lot, Mum, and I don't usually ask for very specific things. I really need it. And I felt it, like, there was times where I really felt it. I said, please, could you just turn on the telly? And I think I was even specific. I was more specific, because I was like, can you put Netflix on? Can you put Netflix on, please? Yeah. Please. Now, I've got a telly in my bedroom. So I was thinking, and I was imagining, can you put the telly on in my bedroom? Yeah. The second, and I mean, like, literally instantly, that I said, can you put Netflix on? I just heard, dun-dun, that Netflix sound.
I mean, how awesome.
Chris went, what was that? I was like, that's Mum. He was like, what? I said, Chris, I kid you not, I literally just said in my head to her, please turn Netflix on. He was like, you are joking me. And he went, we're going downstairs to check, because we had Cleo the cat at the time. Yeah. And we were like, he was like, maybe she sat on the remote. Yeah. Cleo was tucked away in her bed, and the remote was just where it always is on the tray. And there, like, on the screen was Netflix, and it said Lisa, because she used my Netflix.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she used my Netflix. So her profile was there, and it just said Lisa. Oh. And I was like, thanks, Mum.
Just amazing, isn't it?
And stuff like that, honestly, again, like, hearing the stories, I know, and everyone's like, oh, that's amazing. But when it actually happens to you, in the time, it's the specific timing, it does something. It hits differently to even just hearing a story and thinking, oh, wow, that's really cool.
Of course.
These things, you get to know, don't you, the magic of them.
And it's healing.
It's so healing. And it means that you don't have to constantly ask, oh, give me another sign. Give me another sign. You don't need it. No. Because when those ones happen, it's so much more effective, and it solidifies your belief. You don't question it. So yeah, that was very cool, wasn't it?
She really helped us.
And again, it makes me think that was all part of the deal. She's honestly, like, I'm going to check out when I'm 62. It's going to be hard, but it's going to flip you in a way you would never, because you need to be changed quickly. Yeah. You can't have a slow process where you start digging in, because, some people's spiritual awakenings, they ease into it, don't they? They're like, no. You need to have a full-on hardcore belief shift, and this is how I'm going to do it. But also, as soon as I get over, part of my job is, like, I will start making you very, very aware of my presence and that I'm here, so you cannot deny it. You cannot ignore it.
That, she was on a mission, and you could feel it, couldn't you? Mm-hmm. She was fulfilling her part of the mission there. Yeah. She's like, Tash, I got you. Yeah. We're going to do this.
Yeah. Partnership.
And, that ripple effect, that rippled out to me, ripple, I was so afraid of death. Now I'm not afraid of death. No. I mean, God, that's bloody huge, isn't it?
Massive. I mean, it changes your life when you don't fear death.
You don't realise until you stop fearing death how much that changes your life and how much it's holding you back from things. And how you're already, got anxiety about things that haven't happened. So you can't live in the present. Right. You can't appreciate anything. Yeah. It's huge, isn't it?
It is massive. It is massive. And, this is why why we always talk about, and you hear us saying, we talk about each other as if we're connected, don't we? When we started our journey, this is what, like, this is an insight. This is where our journey started. It started together, because yes, I had the awakening in that moment when I had that realization about my mum. And yes, I lost my mum, but you were there every step of the way. And again, when I started sharing this kind of stuff with you, like about mum, you were in it with me. We were together. We did it together.
Down for that.
Yeah. From the moment.
It was like I've been waiting for it. Yeah. I've been waiting for you to come and switch me on. Mm-hmm. It was on. that's how it felt like. Looking back, it feels like total teamwork, tag team. Right, now I got you. This is what we're going to do, because it just all flowed from such a horrendous thing. The flow came, didn't it? And it felt, oh yeah, well, this is what we're going to do. Wouldn't even question it.
No.
And I suppose we just thought that was normal, didn't we? But then I suppose the more people you talk to, there are a lot of people that don't really want to hear that.
Absolutely not.
Make you feel silly. Oh, well, it was probably just, just the electrics playing up.
Yeah, and also they don't want to hear. For me now, the way I got over my grief, the way I processed my grief is completely intertwined with this whole spiritual awakening, because I firmly believe, now this is just my path.
Yeah.
And I know it's not for everyone, and I know that because I've worked with clients who have gone the other way when death has happened.
Right.
Why?
Yes.
Why has this happened? And it's anger.
Yeah.
And I get that. I totally get it. But for me, I went the opposite way.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for this awakening and this need to prove that my mum still existed, I don't know how I would have got through my grief.
No.
I don't know. I would be a different person now, obviously. But I can't see how I would have healed from my grief. Now, obviously, I know I would have, and I think it would have been a slower process. I think that though it's not for everyone, I truly believe now that if everybody could have just even be open to, when they lose someone, when they're in a state of grief, be open to what we talk about, the unseen world, the fact that death is just taking your coat off. And walking into another room. It's not the end. It's just, it's just like you take off a coat. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
And I think if everybody could at least be open to that, it would make grief not easier, because it was hard. It was the hardest thing I've done, but it softens it.
Yeah.
It softens it, and it gives you hope, and it gives you a focus, because again, you guys know our beliefs by now. I think we're all spiritual beings. We all are coming down here. This is a game. It's just a very small part of a learning experience, and then we're back to where we need to go. So, and we've done it hundreds of times before. Death is nothing. It's like that. But when we're down here, it feels so huge, doesn't it? But we're all that. So I know it doesn't work for some people and it does work for some. And you could say that's because this is my path and that's my journey. It's not someone else's. Yeah. But I truly believe, and I would never force this on anyone, by the way. And I don't. Like when I've worked with people, with my clients, if they're not into that, then we don't process it that way.
No.
But I truly feel if everybody could, I think it would be easier, because it feels when you start being open to it, something deep within you resonates as the truth, because I think we all know it.
Yes.
Yeah, we've forgotten we come down here, but there's that little remembrance. And if you allow yourself to let go enough, I was forced to have to, because I had no choice. But if you can just let yourself be open to feeling that or being curious about that, you'll feel this resonance of truth within you. It feels right, is all I can say. And then it can change your whole life.
I mean, what a gift as well, to turn something so horrendous into such a positive outcome. When you see people going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And then
years. People can be stuck in grief for years.
And it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be. I mean, listen, my mum died in 2020. What is it, 2025 now?
Yeah.
It's been 5 years. And I feel the best I've ever felt.
Yeah.
My life, who I am, I'm the happiest in who I am than I've ever been before. So many incredible things have happened in my life that have come from my mum's death.
Yeah.
And, I think I may have said this on the podcast before, and this is really harsh words.
Yeah.
It might seem harsh to hear, but I wouldn't change.
But I find that really beautiful. Once upon a time, I would be like, oh, really? But once you understand that, how beautiful is that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't change it. Of course, I'd love to have my mum, but I do also know if my mum was here, I wouldn't be this person that I am now. And there's a load of reasons for that. But I wouldn't be this person, and I don't want to not be this person. This person is who I want to be, and obviously I want to keep evolving and who I'm meant to be. And I know there's more involvement there, but yeah, I thank my mum for that, because I couldn't have done it without her. And I wouldn't want to not have this, because everybody's life around me has changed because of it. So many people I don't know, people I do know, you know, and I wouldn't change it.
And really, like you're saying, it does come down to the fact that you know she's not gone.
Yeah, she's here.
So you can have, that's when it becomes beautiful, doesn't it? Because in a lot of ways, you know, you have bettered yourself. You know, you've done things that you would never have done before. You've become the person you're truly supposed to be. And that's only sad if that's the end, but it's not the end. Like you say, it's just like a blip in time, and your mum helped you on this journey. How amazing is that? And then you're just going to go and see her, like, once you understand that you're not gone, you know that don't be sad for them.
No.
Because look, they've gone home. They're having a wonderful time, and they don't miss you, because they can come see you whenever they want. And I'm pretty sure she's here now.
Yeah. And you know, I don't miss her every day.
No.
Because I know she's with me.
Yeah.
And there'll be times where I'll be like, you know, like when I have dreams of her and stuff, you know, but I don't spend my everyday thinking, you know, because I know she's with me. It's a different way, and it's learning to realize that there's a different, but also she's opened me up to so much more. And now I have like all of that to focus on as well, almost knowing that, but I'll see you again.
Yeah.
Like I know I will. And I just wanted to quickly say, because there was one thing that was really important that I wanted to share, which I didn't. And this is a bit of where I was talking about kind of a trigger warning. But I went to see my mum's body.
Yeah.
And that was another huge, we talk about the awakening part in my kitchen. But the second one that almost solidified it was when I went to see her. Now, I was umming and ahhing about going to see her. I didn't want to, because I just thought, why?
Yeah.
And what is that going to feel like? And, you know, all of that. Seeing a dead body, especially, again, I had nightmares about seeing my mum in a coffin. Years, for years before she died, I had nightmares, and I'm like, this is like a fulfillment of a nightmare. Why do I want to go see that? And it was a real kind of I was really back and forward as to whether to do it or not. It was a really tough decision. But bearing in mind, because of COVID, because my mum was sick, I hadn't actually seen her. So I spoke to her, as I said, on the morning that she died, but I hadn't actually seen her since a week before that, because I went round to look after her, because my auntie had gone out somewhere. So I looked after her for the day. And the last thing I did was I made her scrambled eggs for dinner. And then I walked out the door. I gave her a cuddle. I said, I'll see you later, Mum. Walked out the door, and I had no idea that was going to be the last time I'd ever see my mum in person. So I had that in my mind as well. I went from mum sat having scrambled eggs in her house, just, you know, to I spoke to her on the phone that evening, and she was more herself than ever, to then a few hours later, your mum's dead and she's gone. And something in me couldn't have closure. There was almost a part of me that couldn't quite accept that she was gone, because I hadn't seen her. Now, I don't know whether that's the case, everyone would feel that. I don't know. But I didn't feel like I could fully accept that she had died. There was something in me, and that was what pushed me to decide I'm going to go. And I went with my sister. My sister had already been to see her 3 times, and she was the one that said, just come with me, Tash. And I said, okay, I'll go if you come with me. Then if you're going to go again, I'll go.
Yeah.
And I can see, again, I can talk about this I'm okay with it, because that's another thing that obviously you can imagine you close your eyes and try and go to sleep at night, and then you see your mum's dead body in your mind's eye. Not so nice. So another thing that I would do to try and like reprogram that and to just feel it and let it go. But I walked in and it was like, so I just saw her in the coffin, and and by the way, I chose her nightie and I bought her underwear and a nightie and stuff to put in like in the coffin, which is just, I remember my mum doing that for my nan.
Yeah.
And I remember my nan died when I was 10, and I still had that memory of my mum doing that. And I just thought, how awful to have to choose what you're going to cremate your mum in and dress her. And then I found myself in Marks and Spencer's with my Auntie Jane doing the same thing. And I was like, whoa,
surreal.
Surreal. So I see her in this, nightie that I've chosen. And I looked at her, and at first I was, because my sister was like, oh no, don't worry, Tash, she looks okay, like she looks like mum, it's all right. And so I was like, oh, okay. I walked in and I was like, she doesn't look like mum, Nud, she doesn't. Like I was almost angry at her for telling me that she looked, because she didn't, because she's a dead body. And they'd obviously put makeup on her but when I went over from far away, it was horrible, because like her face was a little bit like it smushes down, because you don't have the muscle tone, right? So it's a bit but when I got up close to her and I looked at her from above, then that looked like my mum. And I just remember like she didn't have any grey hair, like she wasn't grey. She never dyed her hair. She had a few little greys around here, but she was brown, like she had brown hair. I mean, she was only 62, she was young, but still, that's good, isn't it?
Very good.
And I just remember looking at her hair and thinking, this is so wrong. Why you haven't got grey hair? You shouldn't be dead. Like how are you laying there? And then I remember, looking, just thinking, this is my worst nightmare. Realised. I think there's something quite powerful about that. We've spoken about this, haven't we? Like when you realise and accept your ultimate true subconscious fear, it loses its power over you, doesn't it? And I think in that moment, I was like, well, this is my biggest nightmare realised. I'm still here. I'm still breathing. Okay, it's hard, but look, actually, I'm coping. I think it gave me a certain strength that I didn't know I had. So that was one thing. After I got over seeing my mum, like I had a thing about her hands. I loved my mum's hands, and I saw her little hands in there, and it upset me. Just her nails, they were all done. Like she always had her nails done, and I looked at her little eyebrow mole that she had that I would always notice. So that it was all the things I knew about my mum were there. Her little hands and her little short body, that her little feet didn't like reach the end of the coffin. She was so tiny. And yet I looked at her, and this was my mum, and I was like, she's not there. So I remembered like the coffin was here, and there was a window, like a really small window there, and I just remember like my gaze kept going out the window, and I was like, she's there. She's not here. That's not her. Like that is everything about my mum that I would recognise, and yet she's not there. She's not in there. That at that point, and I felt her out that window, but at the same time as like I was drawn to the window because I felt she was over there. Like I felt her presence over there. At the same time, it was like I felt her presence everywhere, and I took myself back to my house in that moment, and I felt her there in my house, in my home. I felt her in the woods. It was like something clicked in that moment, like that is a shell. And I always say, you don't like it, do you? But this meat suit, like we're just in a meat suit. It was at that moment I understood what a soul was. Because my mum's soul, my mum's essence that made her was not in there.
So that was actually a really powerful thing that I bet you're really glad you went.
I would choose to go again.
You so nearly didn't.
I'm so glad I went, because one, it was closure, because I was like, well, yes, she's dead. And two, from that moment, I knew she was with me wherever I was.
And you could understand
and I could understand it. And it was huge. It gave me it gave me peace like you wouldn't believe. And again, I'm not saying that I didn't have I wasn't devastated and I didn't cry my heart out every single bloody hour for the first however many months I did. I missed her so much, but I always had that moment where I realised she's not gone.
Yeah.
You're
not leaving her anywhere.
No.
You're taking her with you.
She's with me. It was a huge moment for me, and again I wanted to share that because I know it's not a very nice conversation, and I know I kind of talk about it quite matter-of-factly, but it's because I have processed it.
Yeah.
And also because, again, if it wasn't for that moment, I wouldn't be where I am now.
No.
I needed that to understand about the soul, to accept that there can be something outside of what we physically think we are.
Yeah.
And it was the lead up to everything I do now, not just like the spiritual stuff, but the hypnotherapy stuff that I do, because I'm working with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind isn't really a part of your body. It's this thing that's like outside of you. It's your consciousness. And that helped me to, that's why it made sense. That's why the hypnotherapy made sense to me, because I was like, well, I get that, mum wasn't in that shell, but I felt her still. She's still around. That's your subconscious as well. So that's what I'm working with clients, and that's why I get really good results, because I see it from that perspective as well. But it just, that helped me solidify things in this journey, in the spiritual journey. And yeah, I really wanted to share that, because I just hope that if this becomes a decision, unfortunately, that someone listening has to make, just don't just completely throw it out and just think, I can't do that, I'm not strong enough for that, why would I want to do that, there's no reason. Like, I'm not saying yes, you should do it, absolutely not. I took a long time to decide whether or not I thought I should do that, and it was a really, really well thought out decision. But it was the right one for me. And I've just shared what it did for me. Now, I'm not saying that it would do that for everyone. Who knows? I don't know. But I
really think about it.
Yes.
These things, don't just dismiss things. Really sit and think about what could be right for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just think you're so inspiring, and sorry to, I could go on and on and on about Tash, but like, watching her go through all of that, and because I know we felt the same about our mums, so I can't imagine, well, I can't imagine, but and I can't really talk right now. Okay. But I'm just gonna channel Tash. If anything like that, when this happens to me, or I'm just gonna be Tash, because it's all worked out, hasn't it? And you've learned so much, and I've learned so much from it, but you're so brave. And I just saw you in a whole different way going through all of that, because I've never witnessed that before. And you've been inspiring people ever since, haven't you? Not just with that, in so many ways. I mean, it's amazing. That was the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
Oh, but there are no words, are there, really,
No.
to that I can.
And I feel like that is just like of the story, isn't it? It's such a small. There's so much more to the story, but I think just obviously we've been probably talking for way, way, way too long. But like, if you've managed to get through this, well done, honestly. Just the things like that you guys, that I wanted to share, that people could take from it. I think that's what we've shared here. But what I also wanted to really stress with this episode is that when we talk about all the victim mentality things, trying to think positively and having your mindset switched so that you take positive things out of horrible experiences, and when we talk about the things that are uncomfortable for people, I just really, really want to share and express that I'm doing it from a place of, I've done this. This is what I've taken from one of the toughest things that's happened to me. And I appreciate, we all lose our parents. It's something that happens. But I think we really have to, as humans, we have to get out of this whole thing of like one trauma is worse than another trauma.
Yeah.
Because it's all how we feel it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, you know, what the loss is. Even if it's the loss of a pet, it's still affecting you. It still hurts. And we have to acknowledge that for people. But anyway, that's an aside note. I just think that's another important message. But what I want to say is that when we are saying all these things, it's coming from a place of we've experienced it. I've experienced it.
Yeah.
I have come through it. And it's made my life better.
Yeah.
I've seen how doing it can propel you forward to take something. I think it's called post-traumatic growth. But you can take something so awful and build it into something beautiful. It's a choice. You have a choice.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't have a choice because the only choice was to do that for me. Thank God. But I just think it's part of my soul's journey. It's part of who I am as a person. I'm wired that way anyway.
Yeah.
But I chose in every moment. By the way, just to take it back, I said about the 20th of November, that was my mum's date with her little pumps. She died on the 20th of November. Yeah. So she died in the early hours of the 20th of November. She never got to have that appointment. But it turns out what she would have found out in that appointment was not that. It was all working and she had a cure. She would have actually found out her death sentence. They would have told her that the cancer had metastasized to her liver and that she basically had that treatment for nothing because she was going to die anyway. And then she would have known that she was going to die, and she would have died a slow, not very nice death, knowing that she was going to leave all her family. But my mum died with hope, and she died thinking that she was going to be well for Christmas, that she was going to have a cure. She never had to have the absolute pure knowing that she was going to die in a certain time frame. And I am so grateful for that. And I could have chosen to be angry that my mum suffered the way she did because she suffered terribly with that treatment. That was never going to do anything for her. It was never going to work. And I could have been angry at that. Yeah. But I chose not to. I chose to be grateful that she died with hope in her heart. And it was awful for us that was left behind to have that shock of her dying so quickly, to not being able to get our heads around the fact that she was going to die imminently. Yeah, that was awful for us, but I take that anytime over my mum having to go to sleep every night knowing that she was going to die at some point and have to leave her grandchildren and never see her grandchildren grow up. It would have broken her. She wouldn't have done well. And when I chose to see that and other people didn't, and I was like, don't see it, that don't be angry, be grateful that she didn't have that. Yeah, we have to deal with it, yes, but be grateful that she didn't. I think that was the turning point for me of my perspective shift. That was when I realized, oh wow, you get to choose. You can see it either way, but I know which way made me feel better. And again, what happened with mum, it all happened naturally. It was all, I didn't have to learn it. It was just intuitive because of the situation I was put into. Yeah. I did it. And so everything I speak about, when I say you have a choice, when I say, yes, you know, you can have suffered abuse and all these horrible things that could happen to you, and you can still choose to not be a victim to it. And you can still choose that you are empowered and that actually in some way you want it. You, again, I find myself being very careful when I say it, but I have to be honest and open with how I view things. And it's not for everyone, fine, but you chose it. You chose these situations. You chose these experiences. I chose to lose my mum at 36 years old, which is actually ironically when my mum lost her mum. She was 36. Yeah. And when I always think about my mum's always 36 in my mind. Yeah. Very strange. So that's a whole thing as well. But I chose that because I knew what it would do for me. Yeah. And that is why I speak. This is where I'm speaking from, because I have experienced it. I'm not just chatting it because I've read it. Yeah. I've felt it. Yeah. I've seen the benefits. And I wish for everybody to know that it's possible. And it's not easy. No, I appreciate that. And it's hard to hear sometimes, yes. But if I can help one person to flip their perspective and realize that you can turn something tragic into something powerful, it's all dependent on your choice, and you could choose either way, then I've done my job, and I'm happy to upset other people so that one person can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
But hopefully
so
now, when you listen to the podcast and you hear us say these things, you'll understand where this is coming from. It's all come from Lisa.
Yes.
We love you, Lisa.
Leave it on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We hope this has been...
Thank you, Tashi.
No, thank you. And also, I do just want to say quickly, thank you. Seriously. No, because I wouldn't have been able to get through this without you. And it's not just my mum's grief, the grief of losing my mum, but this whole journey, like I said, where I am now, which is the happiest I've ever been in my life, doing what I love, helping other people. I wouldn't have been able to do that without you either, because you've been my cheerleader and my every step of the way. And honestly, like all the people I've helped, they need to be grateful to you, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. I need to start cutting you commission, don't I? No, anyway. Okay.
Oh, dear.
With that, we're going to leave now.
Oh, well done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for listening.
Bye.
We will see you soon. Bye.